Hey, what's going on, guys? Indie Pride here, back with Milk and Cookies Total War.
And this is Madness.
And today we're bringing you the first of a number of subscriber replays sent to us, but through private messages on YouTube. Thanks again for everybody who did send us a replay. We've really enjoyed watching some of these, and we're going to get right into this one. This one was sent by Lion of Valor, a good friend of ours. Pretty cool guy, and he wanted us to cast this replay, so we are going to get right into it. Don't press play yet, but I think we should, before we actually press play on this replay, talk about army compositions and the positioning of his troops. And so the first thing I want to say about that is I like the ninja idea. I think, as you can see, he has four ninjas. I think it's a really cool idea, especially on a map like a key, which has ridges and hills that you can use to position your ninjas really well. I think it's a really good idea for ninja ambush. Two of his ninjas are positioned pretty well, and two of them I don't think are in a very good spot. The two at the top of the hill, right next to this Walker Raider, I think they're positioned really well. They're at the very top of the ridge, so they can get a downhill charge, and perhaps more importantly, they can be supported by cavalry. So if we thought about it logically, if Blue sent all of his cav to the top of the ridge and Lion of Valor sent all of his cav to the top of the ridge, these two ninjas would be fine. So they're positioned well. The other two, however, are positioned, I think, way too close to the enemy lines, way too close. And it'll just, it's so easy for Blue, as soon as he sees those ninjas, to send in Cav and kill them. So typically, when you bring ninja ambushes, what you want to do is position them on a ridge where cavalry is going to be less effective in taking them out, and so that they have a hill advantage. These front two ninjas do not have that advantage, and so I think that was kind of a mistake. But what other problems or what other things do you think about his composition and his positioning right now?
So let's go over his army setup real quick. He's got a bow gen, 200 range, two bow cav units, vanilla, two Nodachis, rank 6 and 7, two Yari Ash, a bow monk, a matchlock monk, two Yari cav, one katana cav, and a light cav. And obviously these four Kisho ninjas that Inji was just talking about. And the main issue I have with this army is that it is very skirmish heavy and very bow unit reliant. And this might not be the right map for this kind of army, or vice versa, the right army for this kind of map, because skirmishing units are very hit or miss. And if you're unlucky and your opponent camps on this hill in the forest with his bows, which he does have, and you don't have any key buildings to capture, like right now, because obviously this was a battleless game, you might have a really hard time capitalizing on this advantage, and I think it might have been better to just rush the hill with a leadership general and a heavy infantry component, which he obviously doesn't have, because as you can see he only has two Nodachi Samurai as his heavy infantry, and those Nodachi Samurai only have 16 attack. Now I don't know what the situation is in regards to retainers. He might not have Blade Master, and his opponent might have used Fugocook on him, so they might actually be a higher quality than I think they are. But basically at level 6 or 7 you would assume that a unit like this has 20 plus attack, if not 24. So basically he doesn't have the numbers or the quality of units to really stand up to most armies in the match made, or, well, in this case it's battleless, but he doesn't stand up to competitive armies, and that means he basically doesn't have the option of rushing the hill and keeping the hill with his infantry force. So all he can really do is use his cavalry, which is in a good spot, to support his ninjas, and try to rescue them and maybe hold the hill for long enough, scare off his opponent a little bit, so he can actually get up here and fortify his position and fight from there, and maybe be able to use his bows to make his opponent attack him up the hill. But that's a big gamble, so yeah, we can see how it plays out. Should
Yeah,
we
let's
press
press
play?
play on the replay right now. And yeah, well, I agree with you. Like, inherently there's nothing wrong with a skirmish army setup on this kind of map, but I will agree that it's harder to make a skirmish kind of setup work. And both players have invested pretty heavily in bows and range units, and really on a map like this where you can just camp on the top of the hill in a wooded area like that, it makes it kind of difficult to skirmish effectively. But as you can see, those two Kisho ninjas probably shouldn't have any issues dealing with that Walker Raider at the top of the hill, but the two ones that are closer to the main engagement are just completely unsupported. And really, if he had kept all four of his ninjas at the top of the hill there, he would have been able to reinforce his position a lot faster with his cavalry, and he wouldn't have lost two ninjas. I mean, one of them has 42 attack, one of them has 14, so definitely not a cost-effective use of ninjas there. And he is a little slow getting the rest of his line up to that hill. He's just now starting to move his units out,
Yeah.
and his cavalry hasn't actually started moving at all yet.
And that's the major issue here. When you have ninjas up on that ridge, you need your cav to be there ASAP and support them and defend against enemy cavalry units, because what's happening right now, these Walker Raiders just routed and the Kisho ninjas are open to cav attacks. They didn't have time to retreat or anything, and you really want to have your cav up on that hill as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing a lot of people don't realize about ninja ambushes is that having maybe, if not cav superiority, at least being equal on the cav footing is extremely important, because if you aren't, your enemy cav will swamp your ninjas and they're just not going to be able to do all the damage that they should be able to. So he is doing something interesting here. He's sending all of his cav to the top of the hill. It's what he should be doing. Rest of his infantry line, maybe probably pretty smart, is not going to the top of the hill, because if he wants to skirmish effectively with them, they're not going to be able to do so from the wooded area at the top of this ridge right here. So he notices that his enemy infantry is coming to reinforce cav, so he's pulling out. It's what he should be doing. A couple of his cav units are wavering at the moment, and he's going to start getting some shots off with his bow gen.
Yeah, but first of all, he doesn't have a very good angle, unfortunately, to shoot from, and he also is going to be shooting into the forest here, which, as I've mentioned, isn't very good. Any unit in the forest is a bad target for a bow unit.
Even for a bow gen with armor piercing.
Right. Especially since you have only 30 guys in that unit.
Yeah.
And his opponent is bringing out mounted gunners as well for him to skirmish with, and they did get off a volley against the bow cav. So I don't think his archers are going to be what wins in the battle in this one.
And at the very least, he does recognize how poor his positioning is at the moment, and that's not really his fault, but he notices that like he's starting to lose all his cav units in melee, which I think he probably should have pulled them out at this point, but he's going to start hightailing it away from the ridge, which is what he should do, so he can position his range units to get better shots off, because right now they're just not doing anything.
Right.
His matchlock just got a real nice volley off, but actually didn't kill too many there.
Yeah,
Only
yeah.
10.
It's an unfortunate thing with matchlock units. They tend to friendly fire more effectively against cav units than
Yeah.
infantry.
That's true.
So he killed a bunch of his own guys, and his cav just routed, which I think was superior to the 3 level 1 or 2 monk cav that his opponent had. He had like level 4, 5, 6 Yari cav and Katana cav, and he's only left with 1 Yari cav right now. So he lost way more units than I think he wanted to.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that he is not in the position that he wants to be in. He did not get the better of that engagement at all. If you can look at the balance bar, it's probably only about a third in his favor.
Right.
He's only got 1 Yari cav left, a dismounted light cav, bow warrior monk, matchlock monk, and 1 of his Yari Ashigaru left, backed up by the 2 Nodachis. So really the only way he is going to win this battle is with those 2 Nodachis. They do have Bonsai. I've said it so many times. They are the best infantry unit in the game right now. And they are better than the katanas that Arthur Roos has at the moment. But that doesn't mean they're going to be able to cut through all of them, because
Right. He has too many units left.
he has
and
a
he's
lot
on
of
hill.
units left. Yeah.
So, oh yeah, and he has, I think, 2 bow samurai and a daikyu. So even with the bow monk that Lion still has, it's going to be very difficult to get him off of that hill.
Yeah.
And yeah, his opponent is just gonna camp as predicted, because there's no incentive for him to come down from the hill. There's no buildings to capture, and he has the archery bow advantage. So a lot of people, just like him, will just camp on the hill and dare you to come get him.
Yeah. And inherently, what he's doing right now, there's nothing wrong with skirmishing with a bowgen. In fact, that's obviously what you should be doing. Problem with what he does here is he has the mobility with the bowgen, right? He can come from any flank. He can move around really quickly. But he just ran towards the enemy bows from the front, and like you can see, there are 3 or 4 bow units that are shooting in on this gen. And while generals do have high armor, they're still going to get shredded when there are that many bow units shooting at them. So right there, I think he took some unnecessary casualties. I don't think he should have stayed in there for as long as he did. And one thing that he could have easily done, it just flanked around the side one way or the other and gotten shots from the flank or rear where the bows wouldn't be able to shoot as well.
That's one thing you want to do with your bowgen. Use those 200 range you have, and use that mobility, go around, go on a flank, and don't get so close. He got so close, he allowed these 2 bow samurai to shoot flaming arrows into his general, which, I mean, both samurai aren't great units, but you still don't want to get shot at with fire arrows by any unit.
No,
when it's your
absolutely
general.
not.
And he took, I think, 9 casualties. Yeah, 9 casualties, and didn't really do a lot of damage, although his general does have 71 kills at this point. But yeah, his opponent sees he has the advantage, and Lion doesn't really have a lot to attack him with, so he decides, okay, I'll come down the hill, I'll attack you, I'll deliver you from your suffering. And yeah, well, Lion notices he might have a chance of outflanking his opponent because he still has a very slight cav advantage with his level 7, yes, Yari cav. And he's gonna outflank him with his Yari cav on one side and the bowgen on the other side, and hopefully his opponent is gonna walk into him, although right now it looks like he's noob boxing.
Setting up a new box. I think he moves out of that pretty soon here, but this is a pretty common trap that a lot of players fall into, even experienced players. I've done it myself. When you have, like, Blue obviously has an advantage here. He has more troops. All he has to do is patiently attack, stand and fight with his gen, and spread out and surround. He has more troops. He has the mobility.
Yeah.
But it's so easy. It's so easy when you have more troops than your opponent to just think, hey, I'm going to walk in there and completely run over him. Well, that's not how this game works, especially when they're low-vetted units or not vetted at all, like these bow samurai, these katana samurai are. I don't think they're vetted, or maybe they have 1 chevron, 1 attack upgrade. They route very, very easily. Even if they're clumped up, even if there's just a ton of guys in a close, compact spot, like cutting through bad guys, like you cannot allow yourself to get outflanked in this game because you will mass route, even if you have the advantage.
Right. And he has 3 bow samurai, not 2, by the way. I just saw that.
Yeah, and right here, Lion of Valor, I don't think this was very smart of him. He's going to move his Matchlock Warrior Monk up to skirmish, and against 3 bow units, that's not going to go well.
Yeah.
They're low armor units, they're going to get destroyed in a matter of volleys.
Even against bow samurai, those are way too many arrows.
Yeah. He should have kept those in the woods on the flank and just not try to skirmish, because you cannot, like, Matchlocks just can't deal with bows in general.
So basically he's now lost one of his most important late game tools.
I would argue that was the most important unit that he had left on the field.
Yeah, I mean it's 70 accuracy matchlocks. That's a pretty good unit. Oh, and he's actually just mounted his light cap here. Interesting. Didn't notice that.
So, I mean, at this point, it looks like there's absolutely no hope that he has of winning this battle. Like, he has no advantage at this point. Like, he doesn't have the infantry advantage, even though he does have 2 no-dachis. His opponent has a lot more infantry.
Oh, okay. His opponent just threw away his mounted gunners against the bow monks. Very nice.
So they're off the field now.
I'd say that Lion has a very slight cav advantage due to this Yari cav. I don't think his opponent has anything left in this regard, aside from his gen. But
his Yari cav is going to come in from the flank now.
His gen has no stat boost at all. So a wedge charge into the bow samurai
Yeah,
And
again, I don't think this is a particularly good plan.
Fish Sandwich Patrol would have said, okay, those bow samurai just served their purpose as a distraction,
Yeah, he has one cav unit left in the field.
and he
There's
needs to
no
use it.
reason to. Yeah, he needs to use it for hammer and anvil. He can't just send it in unsupported.
He got war
So I think that
cry,
was a mistake for sure. And they're
and
gonna
it
route off the
broke.
field.
It just broke, but yeah, for some reason his opponent is now deciding to send in his units piecemeal. He's using one Yari Ash, vanilla Yari Ash, against this Nodachi. I mean, Nodachi isn't very cost effective against a Yari Ash and Spear Wall, but when it's vanilla Yari Ash, you don't want to throw it away and cause that morale penalty to your men, which he is going to get just in a second here when it starts to rout. And yeah, you can see what he's doing. He has this Nodachi and this Yari wall, and he's just gonna send in all his units onto these two units and get completely blobbed up for no reason. He has
Yeah.
way more units than his opponent. He should just go around here, around the back, get a better flanking spot.
I mean, yeah, when you see a spear wall sitting there like that, there's no reason to attack it head on. Like, if you have the time and the troops to allow you to position properly, do it. Just get on the flank and that Yari Ash routes in a couple seconds. Instead, he's going to send literally 6 units to bunch up on one spear wall. And literally just the Yari Cav being on the flank is going to start mass wavering on his lines. And this
Right.
entire group of infantry is going to rout when it shouldn't rout.
And yeah, that's one more thing. Apparently he thought the Yari Cav wasn't going to come back, but it only broke, didn't shatter, so came back from routing, and now it's going to cause this lovely chain rout here. Even without the general dying. I actually, the first time I saw it, I didn't realize the general was alive during the chain rout, but apparently that didn't help at all, because he got so blobbed up, and one hammer and anvil, I think you said this in another battle of yours, against Twig and Abu, I think, that one Yari Cav or one back charge can cause a morale penalty to multiple units if you just blob up so much, like you did in that video,
Yeah.
which almost cost you the battle. And in this case, it cost him his entire infantry force, aside from... No, it did cost him his entire infantry force.
Yeah, he literally
just
has
bows.
no. He just has bows now, and the balance bar looks like obviously blue still has an advantage. That's not the case at all. He has no
Right.
dachis, which are going to be able to catch up to enemy bow units very easily.
Janik is gonna tie him down, and he's gonna just close in with his melee units.
And a game that he should have had no chance of winning at all, he just won because his opponent just blobbed up. Don't blob up.
Right. This
And I understand. I've done it before. It happens. Like
Right.
you think you have the advantage, you kind of get lazy, or it might just be due to inexperience. But I'm telling you that kind of thing loses games, and that's exactly what happened there.
Alright, so let's see the stats, and we'll see you in a second. So we are back on the stat screen, and as you can see, Lion of Valor was outnumbered from the very beginning due to having ninjas, due to having superior cav, which obviously costs a bunch of money, but doesn't give you a lot of units, and also having level 6/7 Nodachis with very little payoff in terms of stats. Was outnumbered, but yeah, he somehow managed to pull it off, even after losing most of his advantages in the beginning. And he got 1300 kills while sustaining 1000 losses. So I guess we should check out the individual units.
Yeah, and I think if you guys haven't seen Fish Sandwich Patrol's video, The Worst Attack in Total War History, I think we're going to link that in the description of this video. You should definitely watch that. It's from a long time ago. I think it might even be 2011. But you can learn a lot from that battle as a new player, because pretty much what happened in that video is a more extreme example of what happened in this one. There's so much blobbing, sending so many units into just a tiny little space, when all you have to do is just spread your line out, surround them, flank them, get the morale penalties off, and you win fairly easily. But instead of doing that, just sending a bunch of units to attack one unit, you're gonna get surrounded, if one unit gets free and hits you from the flank or rear, you're probably going to end up losing your infantry corps, and that's exactly
Right.
what happened there.
And that's actually one of the reasons why I think his Nodachis did so well, despite being slightly below, being optimal in terms of cost effectiveness. 235 kills, 194 kills on the second one. It was because they were butchering these vanilla units
Yeah.
in large quantities in one spot. Like, if they had been surrounded, it would have been so easy to just take them out with that low armor. Even with Banzai, if they die, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have lasted. But yeah, apparently, when you manage to play to somebody's strengths so much, then they still win despite being at such a disadvantage.
It's a quality versus quantity issue. When you have the quality, you want to be in that meat grinder kind of compact infantry engagement. When
Right.
you have the quantity on your side, you want to get the flanking off.
Yeah,
And
this was the best
that's just not
example
what
of
happened.
that,
Yeah.
I think. 2 units tanking, I don't know, maybe 8 units, and a third unit, like, had 2 units holding them, 1 unit flanking them, and cast a chain route to all of those units.
Hmm.
You can't get more effective than that, really. That's pretty impressive. Like, I haven't seen a chain route like that in a long time, if ever. Like, I might have to go back to that video you mentioned. And
Well,
yeah, and his opponent, he had a bunch of, well, actually only one katana, which did pretty well with over 100 kills. One Nagi Cav. I think that one killed the ninjas at the beginning. Charged into him nicely.
I
Got
believe
some
they
cav
did.
as well. But yeah, as expected, he had a lot of units. None of them lasted very long. None of them did anything. And he just threw away his advantage. And I guess in the end there, when it truly mattered, Lion of Valor had the cooler head, managed to use what he had effectively enough, and turn around that losing battle. So
Yeah.
I actually quite enjoyed watching that at the end.
I did too. And
And
I hope you guys did as well, and we have more of these subscriber replays coming.
that's right. See you next time.